All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me call to order the Governor's Workforce Development Board Barriers and Underserved Population Subcommittee meeting scheduled for today. For the record, my name is Kevin Landry. I'm chair of this subcommittee. Tiffany, will you take roll call and confirm quorum?
Yes, Chair Landry,
Present.
Vice Chair Merritt,
Present.
Aubrey Barnum, Haith Johnson,
Present.
Ken Lawson,
Present.
Rick Neal,
Here.
Suzanne Etchen,
Present.
Mike Yoder,
Present.
Cam Green,
Present.
Barman Galati,
Present.
and Dr. Tiffany Tyler Garner.
Present.
We do have a few pre-notified absences. George Galt and Aubrey Barnum did say she may not be able to make it. Tiffany Vasquez, Office of Workforce Innovation, for the record. Let the record reflect that we do have a quorum.
Great. Thank you, Tiffany. Before we proceed, I'd like to ask that all speakers today identify themselves for the record. Moving to agenda item number 3, public comment. Members of the public are invited to provide comments at this time. No action may be taken on any matters during public comments until after the matter itself has been included on an agenda as an item for possible action. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Please clearly state and spell your full name. For anybody who would like to make a public comment, you can dial 775-321-6111 when prompted. Enter the phone conference ID 415-747-736 hashtag. Do we have any public comments online? Hearing none. Do we have any public comments on the telephone? Hearing none, I will close this first opportunity for public comment. Moving to agenda item number 4 for possible action, I'd like to move to have an approval of the July 23rd, 2025 meeting minutes. Do we have any questions or concerns on the meeting minutes? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion for approval. Any questions or comments?
Jerry Merritt, for the record, I move to approve.
All right. Jerry Merritt, a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Rick Neal for the record, second.
All right, we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Let the record reflect that the motion carries. All right, agenda item number 5 for discussion. This is kind of why we're here. We've been at the subcommittee for, I'm going to guess, a year and a half, almost 2 years now. And we've heard a lot of different presentations from a lot of different partnerships in the communities and stakeholders in the communities, both in North and South, as well as rural Nevada. And I thought it was appropriate to pull together a subcommittee report at this point in time that we can present at the December Governor's Workforce Development Board meeting. So at this point, I'm really looking to get some takeaways from some of the previous presentations and then move in to our next agenda item where we're going to really look at establishing our 3 top recommendations that we can present in committee report. So I'm going to just kick this out to the floor and to the participants to get this going. Dr. Tiffany Tyler Garner, you and I have had long-standing roles in this, and so I'll let you get it kicked off and get your thoughts.
I'm sorry, my connection is poor on this end. If you could share that again.
I was just saying, Dr. Garner, you and I have been at this for a long time, and get your thoughts on, what we've seen over the last several months, and maybe give us some guidance of where you think we should direct these discussions moving forward.
Thank you, Chair Landry. I will say that I concur with you in that we have received a series of presentations that give us several opportunities to begin partnering to make some actual work or change happen in some new ways. And so my recommendation would be that we conclude this phase of it with the final report and work to identify a set of recommendations to the larger board that include leveraging existing programming to expand it and or adopting one national program of practice that had some potential impact. One of those that come to mind for me was a presentation that we received from the Midwest, where minimally they began building capacity by partnering organizations as a part of their approach, or to ensure that the outreach happened while allowing the smaller organizations to benefit from the capacities that some of the larger entities had. That would be a low cost strategy for the system to go forth. I also believe that we're at an interesting place in a national discussion around workforce development where we should provide recommendations, but also be prepared to reconsider or at least evaluate what the implications may be based on the way the system is evolving or transforming. Thoughts there?
No, that's a great summation. Thank you very much, Doctor. Do we have any other members that want to weigh in, contribute here?
Hi, Cam Green for the record. I'm going to come on camera real quick. Sorry, I missed the last two meetings. I know we had talked about capturing metrics and data from organizations that had been, participating or around. And so I'm just wondering, is that something that we still have an ask out for of how we're going to capture that, what we want to see? Because I know one of the things that we talked about is, one, the work is happening, and there are a lot of organizations out there moving some of these missions along, but we just don't know about it. And so I don't know if we had gotten to a place where we were going to ask for the data or have some kind of summary of that, because I think, yes, I don't know how long I've been coming to these meetings, maybe a year. There has been a lot of good insider information about what has been happening and what has moved forward. And I think capturing that in any report and recommendation would be meaningful, just, in order to share that there is some movement, there are some things happening. I think the coordination is probably, the hardest part. So to your point, Dr. Garner, figuring out what that looks like, but I would just love to see that go into the report. What has happened in the last year from a lot of the organizations that have presented, some of them who haven't presented, but the work is happening.
Tiffany, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to have Dieter's reports, correct? That we'll be able to use as quantifying data as well. Is that
Yes.
minimum for baseline?
Yeah.
Were there other types of data you're looking for specifically beyond what Dieter's presented to us?
I could think that would be sufficient, and I think I would lean to you all to see if you feel like you're missing things or the math is not mathing, as they say, because I know a lot of people, for whatever reason, are not reporting in, or certain things are not being captured, especially when we talk about the underserved population and some of the things that are going on. How can we pull them into the wider net?
Yeah, I think it's hard to quantify data that we don't know exist. And I think if we can look at, as an example, we brought in Thurman Roberts from Northern Nevada, Nevada Works, to talk about his work as a travel navigator under the Good Jobs Challenge grant. And I think he enlightened us with some very telling statistics regarding the Native American community in Northern Nevada and how they are undercounted, underserved, underrepresented in many instances, mainly because of the challenge that goes with being rural. They just fall off the grid, if you will. So where we have issues like that I think we can certainly augment the data report with those specifics. And I believe, Tiffany, that Thurman did provide us with those details in his presentation.
taking
Thank you
notes. I
very
do have
much.
it.
Yeah. Any other comments, input?
Chair Landry, this is Rick Neal for the record. I think it just kind of adds on. I've remained relatively quiet because I've only been to one meeting, so I'm still trying to play catch up. But one thing that I haven't seen, and that's because I haven't been there, is do we really have a picture of what our total infrastructure is across the state? There are the folks that are participating right now, and there are other folks that are participating in doing their own thing. So to your point, you can't quantify it if you don't know it exists. Um, in the report, I think we either need to acknowledge we do or don't have a picture of what the infrastructure is in workforce throughout the state, nonprofit, governmental, semi-governmental, private.
Fair point. I think we've seen a number of presentations in the last 18 to 24 months that's touched on a majority, if not all, of those organizations within the state of Nevada, both if you look at the two high population areas of the Reno and Vegas area, as well as the rural area. We've certainly had a lot of data and a lot of discussion on that.
Okay.
Um, Tiffany, I don't know if are the reports from Dieter's press presentations available? Is that something we could provide, Richard?
Yes, I can send it over.
Yeah, that might
Thanks.
help.
That'd be
It's
great.
actually fairly concise, and it's if you like reading numbers and spreadsheets, it's very powerful.
Roger that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other input? All right. I guess to move this along, then let's go to, item 6, which is really what are our top 3 committee recommendations? And uh, Dr. Tyler Gardner, I think you kind of illuminated those earlier. Do you want to take those one at a time and see where we are? See if we have consensus?
Sure. Yes, Chair Landry. Great idea.
I'd hate to give everybody some of their hours back this afternoon if we are moving right along here.
So minimally, I think it would behoove us to review a summary of all of the presentations that we received and identify 1 to 3 that could be put forward as recommendations in the report. I would suggest that we consider scalability and acuity. And from that perspective, the scalability piece, we might lean toward some of the existing programming in our regions and suggest that it could be expanded and that there be some attention to maybe putting forth at least one recommendation that included maybe some national practice where we had capacity that did not require significant fiscal investment initially. And so that reference to that Midwestern model leveraged existing dollars and was a re-envisioning of it in a way that built the capacity of the community to expand programming and position everyone else to begin making larger investments in the work. My thought would be that we look at how we might do that, even if it's just as a recommendation saying, because going at one point did an asset map to identify where all of the workforce development funding was as an ecosystem and roughly what the estimate of that funding was. Are there opportunities in this climate to re-envision how they are coordinating across maybe departments or programs to have an impact right now instead of putting forth a recommendation that will require us to find additional funding in a climate like this? Beyond that, you might also, I think we should note as a recommendation that we recognize that the system is evolving and that whatever new policy approaches or expectations come out of that evolution, that we would like to see some consideration happen for this population or the service delivery that was the target or focus of this committee. Does that feel helpful, Chair Landry?
It does. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any issues with that as presented? I think everybody loves your ideas. Do we want to, as an example, look at a summary of all presentations? Do we want to touch on that now? Or Tiffany Vasquez, is this something that you have got a handle on from a summation perspective that you can queue up for us?
I have the form that Dr. Tiffany Tyler had sent out. I do have to go into all of these presentations because I want to see the actual presentations just to kind of get a bigger summary because I wasn't involved at that point in time just to understand what it is.
Sure. Understood. I want to make sure we have what you need to make us look very smart in December.
Can I chime in again, Cam
Please,
Green, for
please,
the
please.
record? One thing that I know was talked about at the larger board meetings that I've been to some of those and offered some insight on the larger strategic plan was the Did You Know campaign. As a part of everybody came to the agreement that clearly there's work happening in Nevada. There are lots of great organizations doing lots of great things. There's lots of resources. Yes, we need more. Yes, we need more money. We need more people, but we do have stuff. And one of the things that we found was a gap is that actually people don't know. They're getting, inundated with information or they're overwhelmed because of their situation. So one of the recommendations on the larger board side was doing a Did You Know campaign. I'm not exactly sure whatever happened with that, but I think for the subcommittee and for the underserved, that was something that came out even from some of the people who came to present. So I think as a part of the recommendation, some kind of communication plan, which to me could be low stakes, low cost, using free resources of how is this information shared out. I used to work for Goodwill with Rick, and one of the things that we talked a lot about Did You Knows, but I would always say every day people would always say, "Oh, I didn't know Goodwill did that." And so I think if we acknowledge that that is actually one of the issues that people don't know about these organizations and the great work they're doing, or not enough people know, right? Or they don't have the capacity to get there. I think it would be a miss if we don't figure out something with that, like who are we sharing it with, how are we sharing it, how are we making it accessible, and not being afraid to put that on repeat. That should be somewhere in there, and I don't know what that looks like, but I was just thinking about that as one of the recommendations that came up from the full board, which I think for this committee, for the population that we're trying to address, access to information and resources and understanding that is a barrier and maybe larger than we even know.
Yeah, oddly enough, I was interviewed yesterday by a consultant who's doing a project for Nevada Works, and he's former head of the LA workforce community, and we were talking about the best kept secret out there being workforce and what a Workforce Connections does, or a Goodwill, or a Nevada Works, or any of the agencies that we represent and that we work with, and this moratorium against advertising. Yet we've got billboards now in Reno and Vegas that talk about the some of the work we're doing. So I think we're getting there. That's a long road to go, I'm sure, but yes, that's a great point. That might be one of those things that, again, working together, we all come from different agencies. If we had some type of um, commitment to, share the resource, share the communication, whether it be through our individual social media, whether it be through any other mechanism that each of the agencies or organizations puts out there, but to be consistent and to get the messaging out in many different ways, we've got a better chance of touching a larger part of the population. Anything else, folks? Right. Tiffany Vasquez, do you feel that you've got a foundation to start preparing an outline and gathering information and, maybe, working with a few of us off meeting to get to the next step?
Yeah, I'll start on an outline, and the report really, it's not going to be like crazy like the child care report there is. Mainly, we just want to make sure that, what did we learn from these past presentations and what can we recommend to the governor's office? It doesn't have to be like, and then we'll put the data in from RNA. But then I'll reach out to individuals too to get some information. Me and Elaine will start working on this already, and we'll
Okay.
have something for you all.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we have to make, some type of meaningful recommendations that, to be fair, are doable. We can't just throw something up that in our heart of hearts we know is not reasonable. We have to, be somewhat cognizant of the nature of our world these days and put some things out there that are achievable. All right. Moving on then, let's look at our next item, number 7.
Ken Lawson has his hand or had his
I'm
hand up.
sorry. Please, Ken, go ahead.
Hi, Ken Lawson for the record. I was just going through some notes from the past meetings and stuff, and I just thought it would be worth remarking some of the things that keep coming up that I think we could make a difference in would be transportation for sure. Maybe if there's a way to provide additional vouchers for different kinds of transportation or ride sharing or public transport. Somehow working with the state for additional routes and bus stops maybe. And then a lot of businesses, we're one of them, in fact, that require certain types of clothing, certain PPE, like safety footwear. And I know that there's some charity organizations out there that already provide vouchers for individuals to purchase, safety footwear and things like that. So if there's an opportunity to enhance that program, whether it be employer subsidized or through any of the workforce agencies, I think that would be something that would be helpful to get people into the workforce. So.
Yeah, I know we do that through Nevada Works, Ken. So I'm pretty sure Workforce Connections has that parallel program as well, and I'm sure some other agencies do.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair point.
Okay.
But
Thank
yeah,
you.
I would caution us when we say something like we need more bus stops. We cannot. I don't think it would be responsible for us to just throw out that as a blanket statement. We don't know what we don't know. Perhaps it would be better to say, let's analyze where we are deficient in providing transportation. Perhaps we look at, um, you know, areas that we know there's demand, but the transportation isn't meeting it, something like that. Or perhaps the study is where are we short on transportation and where
So
can we?
as an example, something that I think might be a success story is what they're doing right over here on Boulder Highway in Henderson, creating that transit lane in the middle to create more routes and more bus stops and things like that. So I'm hopeful that'll be a success story and make it easier for people to get around.
Yeah, good point.
And maybe there's stuff like that going on throughout the state too.
Yeah, Rick Neal for the record, just to chime in on that though, but I understand what Chair Landry's talking about. Better than 80% of the transportation problems outside of vouchers that we've dealt with have been informational. Employers not knowing where the new stops were near their building. They had people taking Ubers to work when if they'd gone a block over, there was a bus stop there, the RTC. So, it may be a push of information through all of the entities, nonprofit, governmental, semi-governmental, to get there. So I think an assessment, that's why my emphasis on do we know the whole infrastructure? That's why it's there. It's not just because I'm the president and CEO of Goodwill of Southern Nevada. It's one of those things of, hey, I've got 20 locations, 900 employees. We could all be talking about it, right? But if we're not included, we don't know what we don't know. So I think both of those are proper. It's, hey, we probably have an issue. We don't fully understand what it is. It may be communication. So investigating that might be the best approach to make sure that we don't turn off our partners too by just saying, hey, you're deficient and you don't have enough stops when they might.
Well, that might actually be an item to put on our list of things to do for next year. and we could
For the
look
record,
at
I
that.
concurred. I just thumbs up can't
Yeah,
go on
I
the
saw
record.
it. I could see. Yeah, I assume that was a good thing. So, all right, well, looking at that, item number 7, goals for the subcommittee for the upcoming year. Looking at that last summation of where can we investigate? Is it a communication issue? Maybe we talk about the improvement and the thoroughness of better communication. What would that look like? What could be done? How could it be done? Understanding where there is deficiencies and how can we eliminate those deficiencies, whether it be in transportation and basic communication, getting word out about the programs that exist, to Ken's point about funding for work-related clothing or equipment that, again, it exists. How do we get the word out? How do we make that available to those that need it? Any other input on that? Yes, ma'am. I thought you had your hand up. You're just taking the top off the water bottle. Problem with the camera. I have a hand raised or a smile. Can't tell. It's on a small screen.
Hand raised.
Okay.
Kate Johnson for the record. I just have a question. When these candidates, when they sign up, are they given proper information of all the benefits once they come through the program? And the reason why I'm asking this question is the lack of communication of getting the information to those that are in need of it.
I would love to say, speaking for Nevada Works, the answer is an absolute yes. My conscience won't allow me to do that. I think it's unfortunately, I'm going to assume it's rather no, they don't. We're getting better at it. We've gone in.
Is it me? Is he frozen?
I think he's frozen.
Yeah, he's frozen.
Cam Green, for the record, I will chime in on this, not as Kevin, but just my perspective, and I'll go back to my point is I think we grossly underestimate the people's capacity to process information. And I would say I've been, with a lot of organizations, and in theory, right, it's all there for legal reasons and because we want to help. The information is available, but it's a lot. In fact, I went to the wrong eye doctor recently after I switched insurance. Why? Because I did not read all of the papers. I have 3 kids, all of them have glasses, contacts, and things like that. So I show up at the doctor and they're like, this is not your doctor. You can pay out of pocket, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that. So even, someone who maybe, has it a little bit more together in terms of managing things, I was at the wrong eye doctor, right? And so I think we grossly underestimate the fact that we give people these, large packets of information, and yes, it's all there, but, did they read it? Did they understand it? And even going to orientation, if you are, in a situation where, your basic needs are not being met, you're, at the threat of eviction or whatever's going on, you're not processing, just all of that. So it takes multiple times, it takes multiple different ways, and it sometimes takes a capacity that an organization who's serving doesn't even have. And so that's why I was saying I am a fan of, from a larger perspective of like getting that information out there from, the state level, from, this board's level, or whatever it looks like, to kind of spam out that information saying, hey, there's a resource. Hey, this is what this looks like. Cheat sheets, one pagers, reminders. I think that's the barrier, not that organizations necessarily. I mean, I'm sure, we could all do better, but I don't think it's not that the information doesn't exist. Because even from a legal structure, there are things that just required to have to operate, but is a participant looking through all of that, or are they listening to all of that the first time they go through? No, they're absolutely not.
And Hayes, for the record, I agree with you. Sometimes it can be overwhelming and it can be a lot of information at one time. So I totally agree with you. I think the suggestion of an overall, a cheat sheet, a summary, because being in business, in order for me to obtain a customer, I had to touch that one customer almost 7 to 10 times. So in order for them to possibly digest the information or walk forward in the benefits that are given to them, they just have to be informed various ways. I'll say that. But that was a great point, Cam. Thank you.
Awesome. Do we have Chair Landry on?
I'm going to see if I can try to call him in. He might be having connection issue.
Okay. As we await his return, I just want to note that I am noting some of the areas that you all identified, and that Tiffany, we might consider listing them as potential recommendations or a focus of the work for the committee next year. And what I think I heard was that there is a need for education and outreach that minimally includes a cheat sheet or one pager designed to help system participants or the community understand how to navigate the system and its respective resources. That there's at least one system issue that we want to prioritize tackling, and that is transportation. And that there previously that there is and I think this was Cam's comment earlier, that we'd like to make sure that there is a data reporting happening, and it's not just the system data. I think I heard her saying that there were a number of projects or folks that presented, like King of Jewels or other entities that were doing programming, and that it would be helpful to know of those promising practices what the end result was, even if it was just a review of their data for a 1 year period or year over year. Have I captured each of those things that you all have communicated so that we can note it as a part of either the focus for the upcoming year or how leverage the opportunity in the report to identify tasks that we believe would be helpful to the system as it relates to barriers in underserved communities? And everyone's on mute, so I don't know if I
Hayes, for
am
the record, I agree with you, Tiffany. I think those are great points.
okay.
Hi, this is Kevin Landry. I'm sorry, I just experienced a major power outage, so I have no power or internet, so I'm on my cell phone. I apologize for my disappearing act.
No worries, Chair Landry. I was just recapping what was shared while you were experiencing your outage, and it sounds like the committee has identified at least some areas of work for the upcoming week, and maybe some things that could be reflected in the report as recommendations, and that those items included a need for education and outreach, minimally materials like a cheat sheet or a one pager that would aid folks in navigating the system. Two, that there are some system issues impacting the work. One in particular is transportation, that might be an area of focus as well in the upcoming year. And a note to highlight that there are some root cause issues that have surfaced over this course of this year that impact the work. Another was childcare, and we have a care committee that's tackling that. So we might note as a recommendation in future work that another root cause issue is transportation. And also there was a previous reference to data collection. And in particular, I thought I heard the member indicating that it would be helpful to specifically have data from the entities or initiatives that have been identified as promising practices to see if it really bore out for us to evaluate it as a formal recommendation for either expansion or leveraging or something that nature. And I believe there's some consensus about how I articulated that, and am asking others if we could confirm that for Chair Landry. And Chair Landry, I'll hand that back to you.
You're doing such a good job. Okay. So Tiffany Vasquez, you want to summarize where you think we are here?
I think what I'll do is I'll take everything that Dr. Tiffany Tyler said, everything that everyone said, I'll put it in the document and then I'll share it. So if anyone has anything extra to add, you can email me directly. Aubrey has her hand up.
Hi, thank you, Aubrey Barnum, for the record. I was reviewing just the summaries of the presentations. I did miss one of the meetings, but was in attendance for the others. And looking at, some of the top projects or initiatives that that I would recommend to support. One of the top, from my perspective and what I'm hearing and what was presented, is we only have one focused on local project for northern and rural Nevada, and I think that one is really important, just given the high demand and needs for critical training and job placement for underserved populations in such rural communities, and especially high demand industries. And the fact that it encompasses more than just one industry: manufacturing, logistics, IT, healthcare, and then in addition to some tribal partnership, I really do think that's an important one that the committee should consider supporting. And then secondly, looking at some other the initiatives that I think is worth considering based on the statistics that were presented by from GOED. One of the other top issues seem to be around in Southern Nevada, employing or providing opportunities to African American males. I saw there was a couple programs targeted to that, so that may be one I was looking at as well on as far as mentorship and skills development. And then separately, something that focuses on disability, and I saw that there was an initiative on that as well. So those are my thoughts. Just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Aubrey. Do you have any other inputs or comments?
My one, Chair Landry.
Yes, ma'am.
My one other recommendation is that we would use the child care report as a template. And so while it might not be as extensive content as that report, but that the largely the framework be adopted as our framework for this report. And so in that report, they provide a brief overview of the context, some listing of the areas that covered, and then the committee members' names and what the recommendations are, that we provide something comparable.
I think the official word for that is called rip off and duplicate.
Yes, for continuity's sake.
Yes. I'm a big fan. Sure, Tiffany Vasquez has no problems with that.
Yeah, Tiffany Vasquez, for the record. I do have the template for it, so I can I can pull in the information for that.
Awesome. Thanks so much. All right. At the risk of being repetitive here, but in my little outage challenge, did we address item 7, really looking at what we might want to do as our next steps next year as we proceed with this committee, or is that been already addressed? I don't want to repeat it if we did.
Chair Landry, there were a few areas that came up during the discussion that I believe could be leveraged in that way, and I would welcome comments from the members based on what I believe I heard. Minimally, I think I heard that there was a desire to focus on transportation as an issue or barrier in the system, the need for education and outreach as a barrier that could be addressed in the system, and then how we are looking at reporting beyond state-driven reporting, particularly for the promising practices, or I'm sorry, or the other piece was, and I believe we just heard that making sure that one of the recommendations is special population programming based on the issues that surface that year. And so you might decide that the focus could be either specific programs or an adoption of or making sure that there's special population programming happening in some capacity. But that was my take on it. I encourage other members to please bring clarity to what I thought I heard.
Did anybody hear anything different or would like to elaborate on that input from Dr. Garner? I think the affirmative nods say you did a wonderful job of summing that up. Thank you. All right. Are there any members of the subcommittee who arrived late after roll call that haven't been identified, Tiffany?
I believe just Aubrey, but I marked her present.
Awesome. Thank you. Any discussions we want to have further today on this, or do we want to let this stuff germinate and then see what Tiffany comes up and delivers to us? I'll take the silence as an acquiescence.
Well, Jerry, Mary, for the record, I agree that the information that has been presented is well done and that we should move forward.
Awesome. Thank you, Jerry. All right, let's go to agenda 8, the second public comment. Members of the public invited for final comment. Do we have any comments online at this time? Hearing none. Do we have any comments on the telephone? All right, hearing none, we'll close this opportunity for public comment. Brings us to the adjournment. I'll accept the motion to adjourn at this point. Before we do that, if it's okay with everybody, I would like to take a stab at a summation of this, see what Tiffany can pull up. And, you know, at some point in the near future before the December meeting, Tiffany, perhaps we could, you know, even maybe reconvene for 30 minutes or so, you know, maybe mid-December or mid-November, see where we are, and just kind of a level set meeting, if that's okay with everyone. I don't want to tie up 2 hours of your day, but if we can just kind of do a review of what's out there. So Tiff, maybe we could do is, you know, take some time, think about what you need for a timeline, and then at some point, say before we get to Thanksgiving, you know, maybe reach out and we have a chat, and we'll try to get a 30-minute to a 60-minute call on for everybody that's convenient, and just kind of level set where we are.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Awesome. Anybody have problems with that? Or are we okay with that?
Dave Johnson,
Good.
for the record, sounds like a good plan.
Awesome. Thanks, Kate. I appreciate that. All right. At this point, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Rick Neal for the record. So moved.
Do we have a second?
Suzanne Etchen for the record. So a second.
Thanks, Suzanne. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. The motion passes. Thank you, everyone, for your time today. I apologize for the technology challenge from the guy who's in technology here. All right. Have a great day.
Great job.
Tiffany, Thank you.
you.
Tiffany, call me if you need any help or you want to discuss anything, okay?
Okay, I'll reach out and I'll send out a doodle to everyone about the date.
Awesome. Thanks, Tiffany. Have a great day, everyone.